Hi, I'm Selena from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, and I'm here with Lynne and Valerie Constantine, who together are Liv Constantine. And they are psychological thriller authors. They have written many, many books. I'll let you guys tell how many. And they've been published in 28 countries, or 28 languages, and they I'm going to let you actually explain. Lynne, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you write?
Sure. So Valerie and I write together under the pen name of Liv Constantine, and our debut book, The Last Mrs. Parrish, was selected by Reese Witherspoon as a book club pick, which was wonderful and helped the book really get out to a lot of readers. Then our next book, it was The Last Time I Saw You, then The Wife Stalker, and then our most recent book is The Stranger in the Mirror, which just published in July. Was it July? I feel like I don't ever know what month it is anymore.
A year.
Right, or year. We've also done some Audible Originals. So there is a prequel to The Last Mrs. Parrish called The First Shot that if you're an Audible member, you can download for free, and if not, can purchase. And we're also working on another short story called Misconception. And we pretty much are always either writing or editing, either writing our next book or editing a prior book. Yeah.
So I have a question, actually, Valerie. How do you write together? I mean, how is it that you can write together? Do you write one chapter each, or do you write one chapter, have the next person edit it and work together and send it back to the next person? Or how is it that you write together?
So you've been watching us, right? Because you got it exactly right. We take turns with chapters. We have our assignments in the morning or maybe the night before. And so we each know what our assignment is for the day. Then we send that finished chapter to the other one and say, edit this, add to it, give me your comments, whatever. And then we speak again at the end of the day, talk about the work we've done that day, and then what we're going to do the next day. And sometimes Lynne might send me, or I might send her a chapter that's half finished and say, how about finishing this one? I don't really know where I'm going, or I'd rather write something else right now, which is great, because it's always sort of daunting to look at that empty page or empty screen. But when you have something that's already there to work off of, that's terrific. So you described it perfectly. That's exactly how we work.
Interesting. Okay. Getting back to your books itself, what can readers expect from your newest book, Valerie?
They can expect a lot of twists and turns along the way. The book centers on the protagonist has amnesia. So at the very beginning of the book, she is picked up on the side of the road. Well, it's actually 2 years later, but you know that she was 2 years ago picked up by a kindly trucker on the side of the road, torn clothes, bloodied, having no idea how she got there, what happened to her, if she had done something or if something had been done to her. So now it is 2 years later when the book opens and she's engaged. But she's very conflicted about this engagement because she has no idea what her past is. She doesn't know who she is, if she has a family somewhere, if she might have a husband or a child or parents, if someone's looking for her. And also thinking, how can this man that I'm about to marry really know who I am? I don't even know who I am. And then very shortly after that, 200 miles away, there is a man, Julian, who is talking to his 6-year-old daughter, whose mother and his wife disappeared 2 years ago with no clue as to where she might be. And he's sort of, reminiscing with her and feeling so sad about this woman who has left. And then their paths converge, and that's all I can say. The book goes from there.
Wow. Oh, that sounds.
I'll show you the cover of it. So, which we one of our favorite covers. So
Covers,
that's,
right.
yeah, Stranger.
Okay, The Stranger in the Mirror. Wow. What do you think, Lynn, what do you think draws readers to these kinds of books?
Well, I think there are a few things. I mean, with all thrillers and mysteries, there's the desire to kind of figure things out and want to know what comes next. So I think if you keep turning the page to find out what's going on, a little bit in the beginning, that there's, like in this case, of course, Addison has a past life. And just as she wants to figure out what it is, I think the reader as well wants to figure that out. And I think also with this domestic thriller genre, it's a look inside a window, when we're all interested in other people's lives. And these are people you can relate to, because we're not talking about international spies or people that are doing things that we're not doing. These are just ordinary people living their lives, but with either extraordinary things going on or awful things going on. And so I think there's an interest in kind of seeing that nobody's life is really perfect, but what's going on, and how are these characters going to overcome adversity, because that's something everyone faces.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and Valerie, what was the inspiration for The Stranger in the Mirror?
That's always a difficult question, because I guess people wonder, did you read an article? Was there a news story? And Lynn and I don't really work that way. We talk and we talk, and it usually takes a few months as we're trying to develop what our next story is going to be. And we were fortunate that we were on a book tour. We were at a book conference in Dubai, and we were there for 10 days. So we had the opportunity to be together continually, which we really don't get, because Lynn is in Connecticut, I'm in Maryland. And so we talked about what our, what are some ideas for our next book. And we always start with a twist. So we try to take an ordinary situation, although amnesia is not ordinary, but usually it is, something that happened, and an experience that a lot of us have had or have seen or talked about, and try to like turn that on its head. Well, that's continual what if. And so Lynn said to me, well, what if we have a protagonist who has amnesia? So that really was the basis of it, even though the book and obviously the story was more than just a woman who has amnesia. And we just like the idea of that. And we also were excited about doing research on amnesia, because there's always research with a book. And of course, if it's a subject you're interested in, then you're looking forward to the research. So it was a twofold reason, I think, or inspiration.
Okay, now my next question, actually, Lynn, is what kind of research went into this book?
So a lot of research. We ordered a ton of books and did a lot of reading, spoke with doctors, neurologists, psychologists about not only about amnesia, but about trauma and its effects on the brain and the body. Memory in general, which there's so much we do know, so much we don't know, and it's very fallible. Everyone's, memory, two people can experience the exact same thing, and when they recall it, it'll come out completely different. So all of that was fascinating. And then also watching YouTube videos and reading blogs of individuals who actually have amnesia, because it was really multifaceted in terms of what we wanted to capture. So it wasn't just the physical aspect of amnesia and what she was going through, but we also wanted to really get into the emotional feeling of a person who is faced with no memory of her past. And with Addison, wanting to develop this character, and we didn't want her to be sort of one-dimensional, because she didn't have a whole lifetime of memory. So what we really tried to do instead is get to know her and have the reader know her through her reactions and her emotions concerning the state that she was in. And that's where it helped to read, accounts from other people. So all of that went into the book. And then in terms of trauma, we came across a very interesting study where there were mice who were shocked when they would put us the scent of cherry blossoms into the cage, and then they would chop the mice over a period of time. So of course, the association with the smell became stronger and stronger, and then all they needed to do was smell that, and they would be afraid, and they would have a physical reaction. What they then did is bred these mice, and 2 generations later, the mice pups who had never experienced this, when they smelled the cherry blossoms, also cowered in fear. So what they were able to infer from that is that trauma is passed down in our genes and from generation to generation, even if it's something that you had no knowledge or no firsthand experience of, which was really fascinating, also sobering and scary, thinking about what could affect all of us that we have no idea. So with Addison as well, even though she didn't have a cognitive memory of the trauma in her past, certain things would trigger a response from her. So a smell, a sound, something that she might see. And that also helped to really round out her character and bring the story to the next level.
That's really fascinating. I have a question for both of you now, having to do with research, actually. What is your favorite research story? Why don't we start with Valerie? And this is for all actually of your books.
Favorite. You mean a research that I did that I enjoyed, or a story of? I'm not sure. I think that what has been the most fascinating.
Okay, that's good.
And this is a theme that runs through all of our books, is reading about sociopathic and psychopathic behavior and narcissism. Those are like, that's the trifecta of,
right.
Oh my gosh, I don't want this person in my life. And so those are the characters that are so fascinating. But to then read about, what the traits are and what the personality is and the thinking and the emotions of people who might fall into those categories has just been fascinating, frightening, enlightening. And one of the most interesting things that I read was that, and I can't remember numbers, I'm really bad at this, I hated math and all of the statistics and everything, but it is really surprising how many what would be labeled, I know labels are not a great thing, sort of sociopaths who are just walking around in our midst. And they based this on prison population and how many there were, and then what those traits were, and then moved it into, for example, the business sector, where you have a CEO who is a megalomaniac, it has those traits, but is very successful. And it's said that they can be extremely, extremely successful, and from the outside look like, wow, this person is just, they've got it all. And that was a little scary. It's like sort of like the sociopath next door.
Exactly, which is a book, right?
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I agree with Valerie that, and I'm always drawn to that, whether it's shows or movies. But for an experience, I joined the Citizens Police Academy a few years ago.
Okay, so Valerie, what was the biggest challenge in writing and putting out, the stranger in the mirror?
The biggest challenge for me, the biggest is always the first draft. And, the beginning of it, but getting it all down. And again, like looking at that empty screen or, empty piece of paper, because I know the story in my head, the general outline of it, but then it actually comes to, now I have to write it down, and the inclination is always to get it down as fast as you can. And so you don't want to rush and miss, and gloss over things or not have details. It's actually sitting down and letting your fingers not letting your mind race again ahead of your fingers. And say, no, you need to get to the next part, the next part, the next part. For me, it's always the initial draft.
Okay. Lynn, how did you overcome that challenge?
Which challenge? I mean, that's not a challenge for me.
Yeah,
Okay, what is your challenge?
I think for me, the harder part is going back in. It's the revision and figuring out what needs to get cut and making, shining that manuscript to the point where it's ready. Because after you go through so many different iterations and reading it over and over again, it becomes hard to tell if it's good anymore. You feel, practically hate the story at that point because I'm so sick of it, right? And so that's the hard part for me, is to try to really be as objective, which is where the editors come in, but we try to get it in good shape even before it gets to our editor. And so that's the tough part.
Well, just to piggyback on that, Lynn sent me, I guess it was a meme from somewhere, Instagram or something, that said, the advice is always write the book that you would love to read, because you're going to read it 100 times.
Yeah, exactly. That's the truth. Yeah.
Good point.
Right? Yeah.
Okay. Lynn, what else can we expect from you in the near future?
Well, as I said, we have an Audible book, Misconception, hopefully coming out later this year or maybe early next year, about a short story about a woman who believes her ex-husband's new wife has done something horrible and is trying to prove it. And then we're working on our next book, To Follow the Stranger in the Mirror. And I don't know yet when that will come out, but that's a book set in Washington, D.C. And so there is, it's a senator and his new wife, and there is a lot of stuff going on, is what I say. Stuff happens in that book. Yeah. So.
And I know one of you actually worked in Washington, is it?
Yes, I did. But that was many, many years ago. Things certainly have changed, but some things have changed. Some things never changed, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, right. So there was certainly a lot of intrigue and, political infighting. And when something happened on the other, in one party that was awful, the other party was like, yes. Yeah, that's the same. Yeah.
Human nature, right? Yeah, human nature.
Human nature.
Time. Yep.
And Lynn, I believe you write books on your own too?
I do. I write under the pen name L.C. Shaw. And those are conspiracy thrillers, much more traditional thrillers with a lot of action and a wider setting, I guess. They take place on a bit of a bigger screen. So they're not domestic thrillers, but about two journalists that are discovering lots of conspiracies and manipulation by the media and the news. And this was written well before everything going on right now. So, yes.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, the network and the Silent Conspiracy are those books. So.
How do you find time to do all this?
She's a workaholic.
Yeah, I guess I am.
Every time we're between something or something's with the editor and we have nothing to do, and it's like, oh my gosh, I have nothing to do today. And I'm sort of like, oh, I think I'll go out and weed and do work in the garden and all, right?
Yeah, I know. And then of course I was going to go to the beach. We live near the beach because we're in between and it's finally sunny, and they closed the beach because of bacteria in the water. So I'm like, oh, great. Yeah. So it's too hot to sit down there. Not that,
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was wondering why you were sitting in one of your chairs in the yard yesterday and not calling me from the beach. But,
right. That's why.
I know.
Yes, now you know. Yes. So best laid plans.
Okay, now I have questions about being a writer. So let's go to Valerie. What's your favorite part about being a writer on the whole writing and publishing process?
So the writing part, my favorite part is what Lynn doesn't like, and that is going back in and adding layers and, sort of deepening the characters and the story and polishing prose and that kind of thing. I really enjoy that. In terms of publishing, I hate the social media part. I'm really bad at it. I'm sort of one, I guess a Luddite, is that what, or a dinosaur in terms of, and I can't, even now, I can't go to FaceTime on my phone. And every time I'm out and I get a message or something and I try to go to Facebook. It says, what is your password? And it's like, I don't know my password. I just can't, can't you just connect to my computer and get me on there? So
I'll fix that when I come down.
Oh, great. Okay. I'm really bad at all of that. And fortunately, Lynn is magnificent and she has a background in marketing as well as other things. And she is terrific at that. But that's the part that really, yeah, I don't like it. What about you?
Okay. I'm going to ask you the same question, Lynn.
Sure. What was my favorite? Well, I mean, of course, one of my favorite things is when we get the finished book in our hands or the advanced readers, when you've worked and labored over this and then you get to see it finally come out, there's nothing like that feeling. I don't think. It's wonderful. And also meeting readers is always great, and hearing from readers, and I enjoy that. And so the social media part I enjoy as well. I mean, sometimes it can be a little bit daunting if we have a lot going on, but what I do like about it, especially Instagram now, is that it's a great place to connect with readers. So it's so much more interactive than even than Twitter or Facebook, at least in my opinion. I think everybody has their favorite social media, but that's what I like, is that you can connect with readers. So people will post pictures of our book with their dogs or different things in comments, and then I can write back to them, or we'll get messages on there. So I really do enjoy that aspect as well.
And I love seeing those, and she'll forward them to me.
Yeah,
I love seeing this.
yeah.
Okay. Now, okay, Valerie, what do you consider the most challenging part of the writing process, and how do you overcome that?
Well, as I said, it's the beginnings for me, the very beginning of it. And I tend to, I think the reason that the first draft is difficult for me is that I edit myself as I go, which is something that for me is a really difficult thing to break. So I will, write a paragraph or even a sentence and think that I don't like that word. And so I'll look for like the perfect word, to me, what I think is the word that should really be there. And so it drags it down. I'm not getting it out as quickly, but it's just hard for me to move on if I'm not satisfied with what I've written. And not even that doesn't get edited later. It does. It's not like, oh yes, I just write a perfect manuscript from the get-go. But that's hard for me. And
you've gotten better with putting a word caps now, right?
I've gotten better. Yeah, that's true. I've gotten better.
Okay. And Lynn, what has been your favorite adventure during your writing career?
I think my favorite adventure is Thriller Fest, which is a conference in New York every year that we've been going to for 7 years now. Now, for the past 2 years, it's been virtual because of the pandemic. I hope we're supposed to be back in person next year. But that's always, my favorite thing, because we get to connect with other writers. We've made so many wonderful friendships. Then there's also great panels and craft classes, and it's just sort of like, we call it summer camp, because we come back together every year, and it really is it's been heartbreaking to me that we've had to miss it for the past 2 years, really.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you this too. What is the greatest lesson you've learned thus far in your writing career?
Who are you asking?
Lynn. Oh, the greatest lesson. I think it's twofold. Number one is perseverance, which is really the name of the game. There was a long time for both Valerie and me that we got a lot of rejections. And so it's perseverance, work on your craft, and write the next book, and not get hung up. Because for a long time, I think maybe we were pitching the same book, and then we realized, no, just write the next one. And thank God we took that advice, because really we had a book before Mrs. Parrish that was closed, and we kept getting interest in it, but it would be like, and so finally we said, let's put it down, and we moved on. And that's what we've, continue to do in our career.
Okay, and Valerie, what piece of advice would you want to share with other writers?
Yeah, well, Lynn said the word, and that is perseverance, and to just keep going, and of course, I mean, I think everyone knows reading good books is so very helpful. And as Lynn said, there are times that you just have to put something away, put it in a drawer, and maybe you'll get it out again at a later date. But as we did with that first book, where it was just sort of like, all right, we're done here. We need to move on. And also you can't rest on your laurels. You got to keep moving and working. And yeah, it's a work in progress always.
Okay. Now I have questions about you as a person, or you as people. This is going to be difficult, so I think you both have to kind of answer these.
Okay.
I'm going to start with Lynn. Okay. What is the one thing that most people don't realize about you?
Wow. Gosh. Maybe that, the one thing that, I don't know, maybe my faith. I have strong faith, and that is a very important part of my life, but I don't always, put it out there, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, Valerie?
Well, I think for me, it's that I am an extreme introvert. And I think people don't.
Yeah, you don't seem like it. Yeah.
I don't seem like it, but I am. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how many authors are introverts.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of goes with the job, doesn't it? In a lot of ways.
It does, actually, because you do spend a lot of time alone. Although with us, at least, I mean, we do have each other, which
yeah,
terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, Lynn, what are your passions when you're not writing, and how do you make time for them again, for the things that you love?
So family and friends first and foremost. And, it's great because with writing, it is flexible. So unless we're in the midst of like critical deadline edits, I can sort of modify my schedule to do that. Writing is also one of my passions, which is great. And then I love reading. As I said, we live by the beach. I like to paddleboard and kayak and just be outside, and in the sun. I love the sunshine. So that would be, yeah.
So for me, it's very similar to Lynn. My family, my kids, my granddaughter, my grandkids in Canada too. To just make time to be able to be with them, and they're little. The two granddaughters are just 6 years old, and our grandson is 11. So these are the years that they want us to be part of their lives, and those years don't last forever. So that's number one. I enjoy being out in my garden. I play the piano very badly, but I do enjoy doing it. It's really true. We also live we're on a creek, and so I love being by the water. I love to travel. I really, although traveling is getting really difficult now, but in the past, my husband and I have made some really terrific trips and seen some amazing places. So that's a passion of mine too. Reading, of course, reading and writing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, okay, Lynn, first question. What are some, let's see, what does your writing space look like? And what do you need to have with you when you're writing? Like, do you need to have certain foods or drinks? And when you're writing, do you prefer music or silence?
So this is you can see my writing space. This is it. And what you can see are bookshelves and pictures everywhere and pictures of the books. And no, I prefer silence if my husband works from home as well, and his office is right outside of mine. So if he's on a call or something, then I will put my earbuds in and I'll listen to classical music. I like a cup of coffee, just really something to drink, not anything to eat, either coffee or iced coffee or iced tea. And I mostly write here, although I have a laptop. I really reached a point where at that point, if I'm out somewhere, I can still write, but then I will put music on just to drown it all out. So.
Okay.
And Valerie?
So for me, I write. The only thing I need is my laptop, because I write in my office, which is, this isn't really an office. This is a partial office, and my desk and everything is here. I have bookshelves across the space, but it's also a room that has a television in it. So in the evening, we watch television here. My husband has an office that's all enclosed. So sometimes I will go in there. Sometimes I'm at the kitchen table. Sometimes I'm sitting on the sofa in the living room. So it doesn't matter to me, whatever strikes my fancy. I don't need anything special around me. I'm usually either drinking water or a cup of coffee. I could never have food because I would just be doing mindless eating while I'm, plus your fingers get dirty, and how can you your keyboard gets dirty. And silence for sure. Yeah, I don't play anything while I'm writing.
Okay. Writers, Lynn, writers often have furry or feathered or otherwise non-human companions to help them or hinder them while they're writing. And do you have any, and do they help or hinder you?
I do. We have a charcoal lab and a golden retriever. And if they don't really help or hinder, except for cute pictures on Instagram, and of course cheering me up. But occasionally the lab, who's very vocal, if he's in the office, he's usually not in the office with me. If he wants me to play with him and I'm writing, he'll start letting me know and talking to me, like a little bit of a growling, like, come on. So I would say he could hinder me, but for the most part, it's really neutral. Yeah.
I have two dogs. They're both Cavalier King Charles Spaniels. One is 11 and the other is a puppy. He's 10 months old. And he's very rambunctious and he's really smart. He can get in and out of places and open things that the other dog just would never even imagine. And they are pretty much, they just sort of sit around with me. But again, the younger one, when he wants to play, he'll just come over and and jump on me and like, hey, that's enough. Time to play. So,
writing stops.
Right.
Okay. All right. How important has the New England setting been to your writing?
Well, it's two of our books. Well, three actually. Yeah, half of The Stranger is New England as well. And it's where I live and have lived for a long time. And even in college, I was in Boston for 3 years. So it definitely plays a large role. And then Baltimore is where the last time I saw you takes place, and both Valerie and I grew up there. So we like to know the areas if possible. So we may move to Greece for a while for our next book.
The next book.
Yes.
Greece.
Yeah.
Oh,
we thought it'd be nice to have it. Yeah, have part of it set there. And then of course you'd have to be there, right?
Absolutely. You have to do the research there. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I just have two more questions for you. Valerie, where can people find your work aside from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester? And again, every video I have to do this plug for Annie's. You can order any of their books at Annie's Bookstop of Worcester by calling us at 508-796-5613, or you can email us at orders@anniesbooksworcester.com. So where else can people find your books?
I'm going to let Lynn go with it.
Oh, sure. You can go to our website, which has links to pretty much all of the, they're in regular stores as well. So you can walk into most independent bookstores and a Barnes and Noble, and you should be able to find them. And if not, they will certainly can order them. And then you can also get them online on all online booksellers, or if you want to go to livconstantine.com, you can click on the book and it will have all the links right there for ordering.
And also you can go to the library too.
Yes, of course. Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And Lynn, I was going to ask you this last question. How can we follow your work and share your awesomeness?
Oh, thank you. So again, you can either go to the website, which has our social media links, or if you just want to go right to Instagram, it's our handle is at Liv Constantine 2. And it's also the same on Twitter, and on Facebook, it's Liv Constantine Author. And then for my books, the other books, it's lcshawauthor.com. So, and again, both the websites have links back to the other. So really everything that you need is on livconstantine.com.
Okay, great. And it's L.C, not LC, right?
Yeah, L periods. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, for clarifying. Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah. Good catch.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank you. And it's Liv Constantine. And but hopefully after the pandemic, we will hopefully see you at our bookstore.
Yes.
You're not too far, Lynn, if you're
No, definitely. I would love to come. Yeah. And I have to mention it to my friends. I have a lot of friends that live in Worcester that have family here and they come and visit. So I'm definitely going to say you need to go to Annie's and
definitely. All right. So it was great speaking with you, and we will be talking again.
Thank you so much for having us.
Nina, it's been our pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.